Welcome everyone, my name is Egwin and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This time I'm going to talk to you about the neck area and I'm going to show you a couple of very easy and, most importantly, safe stretches for the neck and throat area. Now obviously this area is a very sensitive one. We have the cervical spine in it, we have a lot of nerves in there, we have our head attached to it, and so all in one, a very sensitive area that you really have to know what to do and how to do it in order not to do more harm than good. Let me say right at the beginning of this video that down in the description you'll have a repetition of the whole thing in detail. You'll also find time codes where you can jump to any specific point in the video using those time codes. So if you want to review the video a second time, I urge you to watch the whole thing at the beginning once so that you really get a complete, holistic understanding of what I'm trying to share with you. But if you review the video and you want to jump to any specific time code, just use the code list in the description below. Other than that, let's jump right into it. Now, the neck area is a very sensitive area as mentioned before, and it is an area where we have a lot of muscles. Some of them are rather big muscles, like for example the very well known trapezius muscle, which also covers part of the neck area. It's a much bigger muscle, it goes down all the way in my back area, but very important part of the trapezius muscle also covers my neck area back there. Another well-known, at least from the looks of it, well-known muscle is this one down here, and on the other side obviously as well, it's the sternocleidomastoideus muscle. It's also one of the bigger muscles in my neck area. But there are a lot more muscles. I have my omohyoideus, I have my levator scapulae, I have my suboccipital muscles, which are the very small muscles right up back here in my cervical spine. So the suboccipital muscles connect my spine, my cervical spine, to the lower part of my skull, and those are the muscles that have the most effect on really balancing out and evening out my body. And also there is a whole reflex bow up here checking out the tension in the suboccipital muscles, and by doing so giving a command back to the body to regulate the tension in all the other muscles that we have in the body. There are a lot more muscles in the back here. We have the splenicus capitis, the splenicus cervicis, and we also have the semispinalis muscle, and so on. So there are tons of muscles, much more than I told you about right now. We also have the platysma, which is a very thin layer of muscle wrapped around the whole neck area here. So there are a lot of muscles with a lot of starting points and insertion points and so on. That's the basic that you have to know. All those muscles, they lie in different layers underneath each other. So the whole neck area basically and throat area basically is a very complex area with a lot of nerves, a lot of muscle bundles. Also with the nuchal ligament. The nuchal ligament is when you bend your head a little bit to the front, and there is this one ridge in the rear of your cervical spine. This one ridge when you bend your head to the front that you can feel right up until it inserts up here and the lower part of your skull. That's the nuchal ligament that covers all the processus spinosi from your vertebrae. Now, why is all this important? All this is important because this incredibly complex system of muscles requires some specialties when stretched. One very important thing to add when we talk about muscles in this area is they obviously react to fast movements rather intensely. So muscle basically has two main reflexes built into it. Every muscle has these two reflexes. One is, if you compress the muscle too much, it will relax. The other is, if you stretch a muscle too fast, it will tense up. Both for security reasons, so that the muscle doesn't get injured. Now obviously when we talk about, say, belly muscles, something down here, say the obliques or something like that, those muscles you need to stretch at a really fast pace in order to make them contract for safety reasons. The muscles up here in the neck area react a lot more sensitive to both, to high impact aspects, like for instance an accident, or a lot of force using hands, for example. And they also react very intensely to fast movement. So those are two things that we have to keep in mind when talking about our cervical spine, the neck and throat area, and how to stretch it properly. Let's jump into the movement. I'm going to give you a little bit more of the theory stuff a little later on. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to do a four-directional movement, and we're going to use the corners. So when I say, just as a reference frame right now, and I can say, okay, right out my nose is north, to the left is west, to the right is east, and back to the rear is my south end. Now we are not going to work in those main directions. No, we are going to work in the northeast corner, in the northwest corner, in the southeast corner, and in the southwest corner. Those are the corners that we're going to move the head to first. The next thing is, to stretch the neck muscles safely, we are going to use muscles of the throat and neck in order to perform the stretch. And we are not going to use our hands. Why? Simply because using your hands to stretch the muscles of your neck requires a lot of skill and training in order to do it without harming yourself. If you just simply go there, place the hands on the back of your neck or head and roll down like so, you put a lot of pressure in your intervertebral discs inside of your cervical spine. You put a lot of pressure on the vertebrae in your cervical spine, thus also on the nerve endings that run out here, but you don't really perform a proper stretch. So in order to stretch properly, you need to know exactly what to do with your hands. That's rather difficult to teach on a video. You need someone to show you hands-on exactly how to use your hands in order to manipulate your head. There comes the second part. To manipulate the head properly is something that's rather difficult in a standing position when you're doing it on your own, because if you're doing it with your arms, one of the muscles you need to lift your arms up and to stabilize your arms in order to be able to do something with your head is the trapezius muscle, one of which is the main muscles we want to stretch in this whole exercise as well. Which is why I'll give you another option to do it. This option looks like that. I've covered it in one more video before about the opening and closing of the thoracic spine. Now we are taking the same principle and apply it to the cervical spine. What was that principle? It was the principle of arching. Rather than just simply roll down, we are going to use this principle to build an arch out in the cervical spine. And that's done like so. If, for instance, I roll my head to the front, then my head just simply hangs on the muscles in the back and gets gently lowered down. But if I reverse the tension in my neck and throat area and I say, okay, I don't want to just simply roll the head and then the spine downwards. I want to arch my cervical spine to the rear. Then I'm going to use the muscles in front of my spine and try and make the neck long back here. Same goes if I try this somehow on the sides, in those angles between that I was talking about, so the northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast corners. And that's what we are going to do. So when I say we start with moving the head in the northeast quadrant, which is this one out front here, then I mean we move the head in this direction, but we open the opposite one. So it always works diagonally. When I say we move the head to this area, what we do in fact is we use the muscles of the right front quadrant in order to make the distance between our left rear quadrant and the shoulder as big as possible. So what we're going to do looks like that. I'm going to show you first. It looks like that. From this position we start, the head moves to the northeast corner, so this one, in order to stretch the southwest quadrant. So what I want to stretch right now is the left back side of my neck and throat. I'm going to do it like that. Then I'm going to release. See, I didn't move the head down to the front. I didn't move the head completely to the side. I moved the head down, like I moved down my right eyebrow down here. But now comes the tricky part. I only say move down in order for you to give you an idea where to move, because it's a little difficult to show on the video. What you really want to have in your mind is not moving the head down, it's rather contracting the right front quadrant, the northeast quadrant, in such a way that the left rear quadrant gets opened. So your focus is on two areas. Your focus is back here on the left rear quadrant of your neck area, because that's the part we want to stretch right now. And the second part of your focus is on the right front quadrant, because that's the area we use to open up the left rear quadrant. Once again, we open the left rear quadrant by contracting the right front quadrant. Release. Now we're doing the opposite. Now we want to open the right front quadrant and we use the left rear one. See, I move my head not right to the back, not right to the left. I move my head diagonally to the left. And I use the muscles in the neck back here to arch my cervical spine. One thing that's quite important when you stretch something in front of your shoulders, so in the throat area, is that you open your mouth. Why is that important? Because if you leave your mouth closed, you'll need a lot of tension in your jaw joints in order to keep your mouth shut. Because whenever you stretch the front, I told you before, we have the platysma, which is this very thin layer of muscle out here, and we also stretch that. So all the muscles out front, they hang on the platysma somehow. And so they tend to try and open the jaw. If you resist using your jaw muscles are neurologically linked with your suboccipital muscles, which, when realizing that there is too much tension, will increase the tension of all the muscles in the body, which is exactly the opposite of what we want, because we want the muscles to relax. Once again, I show you the other diagonal aspect. So now we want to stretch the right rear aspect of the cervical spine. We want to open this part back here, So I'm going to use the muscles in the left front quadrant. I'm going to release. Now I want to open the left front quadrant. Remember to relax the jaw, and now you use the muscles in the right rear quadrant. And you have a nice stretch down here in this area, the sternocleidomastoideus on the left side. Now that's the safest way to stretch the four main aspects of your cervical spine. You can, if you want to, you can also stretch the main directions, so north, south, east and west. You don't have to actually, because using the quadrants, using the diagonals, you already get a workout on all the muscles in the neck area you need. But if you still feel more comfortable with adding the main directions, now you can do it. Would look like that if you want to stretch the right throat side and neck area side, completely the right side without back or fourth quadrant. Then you just simply use your muscles on the left, you tilt your head to the left. Again, you gently open your jaw joint and you try to rather lift your head up and over than just simply think ear to shoulder. Never think ear to shoulder, because that would give a collapsing impulse into the spine. Never think chin to chest in order to stretch the rear of your neck, because that again would put a lot of pressure on your cervical spine. If you want to stretch the rear on both sides simultaneously without using the diagonals, then you do so by trying to make your neck as long as possible, and your focus is on pushing out each and every one of those vertebrae directly to the rear and a little bit up. Focus on that, and you'll naturally use the right muscles. But if you just simply roll your head to the front, now the weight of your head is supported by the muscles you try to stretch. If you think of pushing the vertebrae to the rear and up, now the muscles in the neck are relaxed, they are only passively stretched, and the active part is in the front, creating this arch I was talking about before. So that's how you stretch your neck area healthy. Whenever you think of using your arms, like so, again, look at what direction my arm is pressing on my head. That puts a lot of pressure in the cervical spine, most of the time creating more problems than solving it. So whenever you have someone who can teach you exactly how to lift the head out and then gently stretch, and hopefully not in a standing position but rather in a lying down position, that's good. If you're on your own and you want to to just simply stretch out your cervical spine a little bit, then use the method I just showed you, because that's the much healthier one, and it also helps you to coordinate the muscles in your throat and neck area, which is a lot more important anyway. One more thing, obviously, you can also go and then do like circles with your head. When you do so, never go fast in your neck area. Never go big in your neck area if there is any pain at all. And those are the two most important rules. Now I show you 3 different ways. The difference might be marginal, but still it's 3 different ways. First off, after you've done this stretch back, this stretch, lifting out here, then the other diagonal, lifting out here, lifting out here. Maybe you've done the side stretches and the front and rear ones as well. You can, you don't have to. Now you have the opportunity to go in really big circles. Now whenever you do that in 3 stages. Stage 1, you see it a little bit here. Stage 1 is such a huge circle that I'm actually partially using my thoracic spine for it. So make sure that the neck is as long as possible without tensing it up, but you're nice and tall. And you don't really think about moving your head. You allow your whole shoulder girdle to move with you. You do that gentle and slowly in one direction. You do it gentle and slowly in the other direction. Then you jump. So this was a circle right down here. Now you jump completely underneath your skull and you make a very, very small circle as high up in the cervical spine as possible. And then change direction. Don't go any faster than that. If you feel like, oh, it's blocked, give yourself time to work on that block. Move to the block, change direction, move to the block from the other side. I mentioned that in a couple of videos already in different other parts of the cervical, of the thoracic and also lumbar spine and also the hip joints, for example. Now, third option, use the whole cervical spine to make circles. But so now you could say this is the middle part. But now use the principle of arching we used before. So think about the parts that are opening up rather than the parts that are closing down. And then change direction and do it on the other side. When you come to the rear, you can open your mouth, what feels comfortable for you. And that's it. And that's how you mobilize this whole area and how you, first and foremost, how to stretch this area without harming yourself. Now, just one word at the end. What should this whole area feel like? This whole area should really feel easy, light and long. As if your head was flying on the rest of your body. If you feel like something is pressing down on you all the time, then you will have a lot of pressure in your body. Not just in your joints, but in your whole body. Your whole organs will be stuffed tighter a lot. All the tensional pathways in your body, from tendons to muscles to connective tissue and so on, all those areas will be tense and will be a lot more compact. Now for nowadays daily use, what we want is not to be completely compact. What we want is, for every normal person, what we want is to be able to move as freely as possible, to have joy in life. And sometimes life is rather stressful nowadays, so it's even more important to be able to use physical exercise properly in order to balance that out. And using your spine properly, using the coordination of your muscles properly will give you this choice. And that's why I'm teaching all those methods. That's what you can actually gain from those methods. I'll cover a little more about the details of what and how healthy body structure can be used in order to balance stress and stuff like that in the near future. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment box below. Yeah, one more thing maybe. Let me add that. Just almost forgot that. If you wanna do this exercise, which I highly recommend from time to time, you don't have to do that every day, but if you do this exercise, how often should you do it? Like, how many repetitions? I'd say even one very clear and clean repetition of opening up this side, relaxing and centering, opening up the other side, relaxing and centering, opening up the back side, relaxing and centering, and so on. Even one repetition can do a lot already. If you really feel the need for it, then make 2 rounds. But I suggest not more than that. Again, this is something where it's more about teaching the muscles the proper coordinational aspect than trying to force the muscle open. Because the muscle, once it sees, whoa, okay, someone's giving me the chance to go back into my normal physiological function, the muscle will reduce its tension automatically. And that's what this exercise is all about. Alright. Thanks again. If you have any questions, as mentioned, leave them in the comment box below. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it. I'm happy to see you around again. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more about how to use body structure, and consciousness in constellation with each other in order to be centered, to be able to move freely, and so on. I wish you a wonderful time and see you around soon.